Molly Pitcher, the woman of the Revolutionary War. Amid the deafening cannon fire, in the scorching heat of the Monmouth battlefield, as soldiers collapsed from exhaustion, from wounds, from burning thirst, a small woman carried a bucket of water through the gunfire, giving water to her comrades, saving the lives of the dying, and when her husband fell, she took up the barrel of the cannon, continuing to fight like a true soldier. Her name was Molly Pitcher, and her story is an immortal symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the spirit of freedom upon which America was built. Today, let's go back in history with me to discover the extraordinary journey of the woman who changed the meaning of the word hero, not with a sword, but with a heart that never backed down. In the flow of history, there are names that, when mentioned, people remember their glorious feats and decisive battles. But there are also people who, without titles or glory, just by their silent actions in the midst of the battlefield, have carved their names into the hearts of an entire nation. Molly Pitcher, an ordinary woman, without a military rank or command, but has become an immortal symbol in the American Revolutionary War. Her story is not only a story of courage. It is a story of the indomitable spirit of people who seem small, but have shouldered the fate of an entire nation on their bare shoulders. Let's go back to the end of the 18th century. At that time, America was just a young colony, thirsting for freedom but still fragile under the rule of the mighty British Empire. Battles broke out everywhere. The smoke of gunpowder, the sound of cannons, the thundering footsteps of soldiers and the shouts of freedom all mingled together, creating a fierce symphony of the times. In that setting, people did not expect women to step into the front lines. Their roles were usually limited to the barracks, cooking, washing, caring for the wounded. But Molly Pitcher was different. She did not just follow to serve logistics. When the cannons roared, when her life hung in the balance of black smoke, she rushed straight to the battlefield. Without a moment's hesitation. Molly Pitcher's real name may have been Mary Ludwig Hayes, or it may have been a nickname given to her by her beloved soldiers. Historical facts sometimes blur under the smoke of war. But Molly's spirit never faded. She is known as the one who kept watering the gunners during the Battle of Monmouth, one of the fiercest and most important battles of the war. In the scorching heat of summer, when men collapsed from exhaustion, Molly Pitcher kept running back and forth, carrying buckets of water, not only to quench her thirst but also to cool the cannons, keeping them from being overloaded and shutting down. And then, when her husband, a gunner, was seriously wounded, Molly Pitcher did not hesitate. She dropped the bucket of water, grabbed the powder stick, and continued the fight like a true warrior. Before the astonished eyes of the soldiers, amid the flying bullets, Molly Pitcher loaded the cannon, and opened fire like the most seasoned soldier. That action not only saved the unit's cannon, it also fueled the entire army. The spirit of an ordinary woman inspired thousands of hearts, helping them stand firm against the storm of violence, fighting for the dream of freedom. In the years that followed, Molly Pitcher became a sacred image in the American consciousness. People tell stories about her in songs and oral stories, as a living symbol of courage, resilience, and belief in a better future. Molly Pitcher was not a trained warrior. She did not wear a splendid military uniform, but she fought with a power that went beyond her body, the power of her heart, of her love for freedom, and of her desire to protect those she loved. That is why, for more than 2 centuries, Molly Pitcher has lived forever in the heart of America as an immortal monument of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. If you are also moved by Molly Pitcher's indomitable spirit, please like, subscribe to the channel and share this video to spread the flame of freedom and resilience to everyone. Chapter 1. Ordinary Girl in Troubled Times. Before becoming Molly Pitcher, a heroic symbol in American history, she was just an ordinary girl, living a simple life like many other women in the 18th century. Her real name was Mary Ludwig, born around 1754 in Trenton, New Jersey. Mary grew up in a poor working family, without the opportunity to study properly. From a young age, Mary was used to working hard, carrying water, cooking, washing clothes, taking care of the family. Life was simple, but it also trained the little girl with an enduring strength that she herself did not expect. At the age of 14, Mary went to work as a maid for a wealthy family. Here, she learned many valuable skills. Not only housework but also endurance, patience, and loyalty. These seemingly ordinary qualities later became the foundation for the extraordinary actions that Molly Pitcher would perform. Mary's life took a different turn when she met and married William Hayes, an artilleryman in the American Revolutionary Army. When William enlisted, Mary refused to sit at home and wait. She decided to follow her husband to the battlefield, becoming one of the camp followers, women who followed the army to provide logistical support, cooking, caring for the wounded, doing laundry, supplying water and food. At that time, war was not just a matter of soldiers. War crept into every home, every corner of life. Women could not stand aside. They were both the keepers of the fire in the rear and the silent warriors, contributing to each small but valuable victory. Mary, or Molly as the soldiers affectionately called her, quickly became famous in the unit. She never complained despite the hard, harsh work. With a bucket of water that never left her hand, Molly traveled across the battlefields, bringing water to the soldiers fighting and to the cannons roaring in the fierce battlefield. It was from this image that the name Molly Pitcher was born, Molly the water bearer. However, the war required more than care. It required courage. And Molly, that little woman, showed the world that the strength of the spirit can turn an ordinary person into an immortal symbol. The days on the Monmouth battlefield, where the summer heat was scorching and the air was thick with gunpowder, tested everyone. The soldiers were tired and collapsed. Many cannons had to be silent because no one was strong enough to reload. But Molly Pitcher kept running, kept bringing water, like a small but never-ending stream. There are moments when greatness does not begin with great actions. It started with small actions repeated with an iron will. Molly did not know that, just a few hours later, she would perform a miracle that would make posterity bow in admiration. But to reach that moment, first of all, she was simply a wife, a woman, persistently performing her duty with all her silent courage. The first lesson from Molly Pitcher's life is very simple. No one is born a hero. But anyone can become a hero if they dare to live their life for what they believe in. Mary Ludwig Hayes, an ordinary girl in troubled times, is living proof of that. If you are impressed by the extraordinary strength from Molly Pitcher's ordinary heart, please like, subscribe to the channel and share this story. Let's spread the flame of courage to more people. Chapter 2. When Molly Pitcher carried a bucket of water to battle. June 28, 1778, Monmouth, New Jersey. A scorching day, the heat rising from the ground and scorching the air. It was one of the fiercest days in the entire American War of Independence. The Revolutionary Army, under the command of General George Washington, clashed with the British forces led by General Sir Henry Clinton. Thousands of soldiers, dozens of cannons, thick clouds of dust and smoke turned Monmouth into a chaotic sea of fire. In such harsh conditions, the soldiers were not only fighting the enemy, but also fighting their own bodies. The heat drained their vitality. Thirst became an enemy as dangerous as cannonballs. Many soldiers collapsed not from injuries, but from heatstroke, from exhaustion. And in the midst of that scene, Molly Pitcher appeared. With no weapon in hand, no armor to cover her body, she only carried a bucket of water. But every step she took on the battlefield was stronger than any army. She rushed through the bullets, past the bodies of fallen gunners, weaved through the roar of cannons, just to be able to bring water to the cannons and to the soldiers who were struggling with death. No one ordered her to do that. There was no official order forcing a woman to rush into the middle of the battle. Molly did so for a simple reason. For the lives of her comrades, for the ideal of freedom that she believed in. Each ladle of water, each time wiping the soldiers' faces, each time pouring water to cool the cannons, all of those seemingly small actions contributed to helping the cannons continue to fire, repelling the fierce attacks of the British Army. Suddenly, an incident occurred. Molly's husband, William Hayes, was operating a cannon when he was hit by a bullet and collapsed in the middle of the battlefield. In that chaotic moment, everything seemed to stop. The gunners around were confused. The gunner had lost his control. The American forces were in danger of losing their important position. Without a second's hesitation, Molly Pitcher put down the bucket and walked straight to the gun. She grabbed the barrel stick, cleaned the barrel, loaded gunpowder, loaded the bullets, and pulled the firing lever. Molly performed each operation and each movement skillfully, no different from a professionally trained soldier. Amidst the sound of bullets whistling overhead, amid the astonished eyes of the soldiers around her, Molly continued to fire the cannon. She did not just replace her wounded husband. She had become a true warrior, fighting not only with physical strength but also with extraordinary courage. An army officer, witnessing this action, later wrote, "I saw a woman serving the cannon like a veteran gunner, fearless, unyielding." General George Washington, hearing of Molly's actions, personally awarded her the title of honorary soldier after the battle. But for Molly, titles were not important. The only thing she cared about was, the soldiers beside her were still alive, the cannons were still firing, and the dream of freedom was still protected. That day, Molly Pitcher did not just save a cannon. She saved the fighting spirit of an entire unit. And in the course of history, she saved the belief that, even in the darkest moments, a brave heart can light up the battlefield. If the story of Molly Pitcher amid the flames of Monmouth touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Let's celebrate the indomitable spirit of silent heroes. Chapter 3. The woman who carried the spirit of a nation. The Battle of Monmouth passed. The American Revolutionary Army retreated in a tenacious position. News of the woman holding a bucket of water to carry ammunition in the middle of the battle quickly spread throughout the barracks, then beyond the battlefield, spreading throughout the villages and towns. Molly Pitcher, that simple name, has now become a symbol of the courage and indomitable spirit of an entire nation. But behind the halo of a feat, Molly did not ask for a reward. She did not seek fame. When the troops marched through the streets, when officials stood to read the praise, Molly Pitcher quietly returned to her daily work, caring for the wounded, mending clothes, cleaning, cooking for the soldiers. She understood that the war did not end with a victory. It only truly ended when every American lived in freedom and peace. Although honored by General George Washington and given a small pension by the Army, Molly's life after the war was not easy. Her husband died not long after. Molly herself had to work hard to support herself, working as a servant, a washerwoman, doing hard manual labor. However, Molly never complained or blamed. She always carried within her a quiet pride, the pride of someone who had taken up arms, who had faced death for an ideal greater than herself. Many people asked Molly about her days at Monmouth. She just smiled and replied, I only did what had to be done. A simple answer, but it contained the power of thousands of hearts that loved freedom. Time passed, Molly grew old, but in the minds of those who met her, the image of that small woman, with a tanned face and bright eyes, remained forever. She did not need a song of praise. She did not need a monument. Her life, a life of selflessness for an ideal, has been a torch to light the way for future generations. And indeed, Molly Pitcher is not only a symbol of America. She represents all ordinary people, people who do not have the title of general, do not wear iron armor, but in the moment of life and death, they stand up and do extraordinary things. They may be mothers who raise soldiers, fathers who hold plows and become warriors, or teenagers who take up weapons with trembling hands. But it is people like Molly Pitcher who make history. Not by words, but by actions. Not by external glory, but by absolute loyalty to an ideal. Today, on Monmouth Hill, there is a small monument to Molly Pitcher. Her statue stands next to a cannon, holding a bucket of water, looking toward the horizon, where freedom calls. That statue is not just to honor a woman. It is a reminder that, in any struggle, it is not those who are strongest in muscle or weapon who win, but those who are strongest in spirit. That is how Molly Pitcher lived. And she has engraved her name in the hearts of an entire nation. If Molly Pitcher's spirit has inspired you, please like, subscribe and share this story. Let's preserve and spread the immortal spirit of silent heroes. Chapter 4. Molly Pitcher's Immortal Legacy. Time rolls by like a river. The cannons at Monmouth have long since fallen silent. The soldiers who shared the joys and sorrows with Molly Pitcher on the battlefield have also passed away one by one. However, Molly's name has not been forgotten. Whenever the early days of America are mentioned, people remember her, like a small flame that burns forever, lighting up patriotism and an indomitable spirit. There are no large biographies written about Molly's life. There are not many portraits preserved. But perhaps that is what makes her legacy so special. Molly Pitcher did not need the spotlight. It was her simplicity, her simple courage that touched the hearts of millions of people through many generations. In American schools, whenever they learn about the Revolution, students hear the story of the woman who carried a bucket of water to the battlefield. Not to hold guns to kill the enemy, but to sustain life, for comrades, for the ideal of freedom. Molly Pitcher monuments were erected in Monmouth and some other places, as humble but powerful symbols reminding the next generation. Great changes do not only come from great generals, but also from silent hands. Many later historical documents argue that Molly Pitcher does not represent just a single individual, but can be a symbolic image of all the brave women who served in the American Revolutionary War. But whether Molly Pitcher was a real person or a symbol built from many stories, the most important thing remains unchanged. Molly's spirit is the spirit of freedom, resilient, humble, and never subdued. Today, when mentioning Molly Pitcher, people do not only think of the woman pouring water on the cannon. People think of all the ordinary people who did extraordinary things. The mother who stayed up all night sewing clothes for soldiers. The wife who waited for her husband during the long years of war. The daughter who crossed the forest and streams to deliver news to the army. Each of those actions, each of those silent sacrifices, woven the tapestry of freedom that America is wearing today. Molly Pitcher's legacy does not lie in flashy victories. It lies in perseverance, in love for the homeland, in the determination not to surrender even when all hope seems lost. That is also a lesson for us today. Not everyone can become a hero on the battlefield. But each of us in our daily lives can become a Molly Pitcher when we stand up for what is right, when we help others in difficult times, when we stay steadfast in our beliefs, no matter how the world around us changes. Molly Pitcher proved that no title, no crown can also become immortal. Just a brave heart, an unyielding soul. When we remember her, it is not just to honor a woman in history. We remember the most beautiful qualities of human beings: courage, sacrifice, and unconditional love for freedom. If you feel the immortal power from the story of Molly Pitcher, please like, subscribe to the channel and share this video to spread the spirit of bravery and indomitability to more people. Conclusion. The spirit of Molly Pitcher in the heart of America. Molly Pitcher, a name that sounds so simple but has become an immortal symbol in the heart of America. Not because of her flowery words, not because of her glorious achievements, but because she taught us a simple but profound lesson, that within every ordinary person, there is always an extraordinary strength. In the darkest moments, when danger surrounded and faith wavered, it was people like Molly, hands that did not hesitate to step forward, hearts that did not retreat, who kept the flame of freedom alive. Today, the world is still full of challenges. There is still a need for new Molly Pitchers, people who are willing to stand up for what is right, for justice, for the common dream of humanity, to live in freedom, fairness, and humanity. Remember, you don't have to wait for someone to give you the chance to be a hero. You just have to start with small actions, with courage, with an unyielding heart. The spirit of Molly Pitcher lives on, in every step of those who dare to act. In every kind word, every helping hand, every unyielding look in the face of injustice. And in each of us, if we believe in ourselves, believe in our noble ideals, that spirit will continue to light up this world. If you believe that every small action can make a big change, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Together, we will continue the spirit of Molly Pitcher, lighting up the faith for today's and tomorrow's generations.